Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to Books Are the Basis. We are celebrating the Books Are the Basis week, and our topic this year is Shastra Chakshu, seeing the world through the eyes of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we are very happy to have with us His Grace Gauranga Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Krishna Premarupa Prabhu, for inviting me.
Yeah. Gauranga Prabhu, most devotees will know him very well. Just brief introduction. Gauranga Prabhu is a B.Tech graduate from the IIT Mumbai, joined over 30 years ago in 1993, I believe, in Mumbai, and served in many different capacities. And also he's a trustee of the ISKCON GBC College, also a member of the Organization Development Committee, of the nomination committees, and especially he's known for being the director of the Govardhan Eco Village, and also, I believe, a co-president in ISKCON Jyopati. He also serves as the administrative director for the Bhaktivedanta Research Center in Kolkata, which is also a very important and interesting project. And Gauranga Prabhu also was appointed as a GBC with global duties for human resource development and capacity building of ISKCON temples globally. So GBC member with some specific mission and role there. And of course, Gauranga Prabhu is also very well known as a speaker, as a teacher, and an influencer in that sense. And we're very happy to have you with us, especially on the topic, because we said we want to look at the world through the eyes of scriptures. And one topic which is always of concern is leadership. The world needs good leaders. There's many opinions on what good leadership means, and there are many different models and many different ways to approach leadership. But yeah, we'd like to hear from you, your understanding, and also, of course, related to what is Prabhupada giving us, what kind of teachings Prabhupada is giving us in his books about leadership. Maybe we can start with a question just in general, because you have a long leadership journey behind you, and maybe you could share something, how Srila Prabhupada's books influenced your own leadership life. What inspiration you took from Prabhupada's books in your leadership role in ISKCON?
Yeah, thank you, Krishna Premarupa Prabhu. For me, my first introduction to Srila Prabhupada's books was through the study of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Mm-hmm. And one of the first verses which really struck me was Yad yad acharati sreshthas tat tat evetaro jana sayat pramanam kurte lokas tat anuvartate, which Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that whatever great man does, common person follows. So example is a very, very important element in spiritual leadership. And therefore, amongst the three qualities which I have really understood from Srila Prabhupada's books with respect to leadership or trustworthy spiritual leadership, the first is character. And so again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages of Naimisharanya, they are looking at Suta Goswami and they are glorifying him that you have studied this under proper authority and you have led a very, very sinless life. And again, Parikshit was kind of in a situation where he's cursed to die in 7 days and 7 nights. But rather than retaliating, he is taking the humble position and he says, Tasyeva meghasya paravaresho vyasakta chittasya grihesho bhikshnam. That actually this curse has come to me. It is the will of Krishna. Nirveda mulo dijisha parupo. It is for my benefit, for my purification. Yatra prasakto bhayamashu dhatte. So that out of this fear of death, I will become detached and ultimately I will advance in spiritual life. So therefore, Shukadeva Goswami also glorifies Parikshit, saying that you are the appropriate candidate to hear this Srimad Bhagavatam because Tadaham te abhidasyami mahapaurushiko bhavan, because you are a Mahapurusha. Yasya Shraddhadamashu, you have great faith in Krishna and is Krishna's plan for you. Syan Mukunde Mati Sati, and therefore your mind is constantly absorbed in Krishna. So the way Srila Prabhupada has given purports to all of these wonderful verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, highlighting the character of these great devotees, that many of these great devotees may become helpless, but they never become hopeless. And their character in terms of adversity is always demonstrated. And again, one of my favorite sections in the Bhagavatam is Bhishma Dev on the bed of arrows, and Yudhishthir Maharaj is not getting convinced. And, it is described, Vyasadya Ishwarehage Krishnan Adbhuta Karmana. Vyasdev is trying to convince Yudhishthir, Krishna is trying to convince Yudhishthir, but Yudhishthir cannot get convinced at all. Krishnena Adbhuta Karmana. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that Krishnena Adbhuta Karmana means Krishna within the heart of Yudhishthir as Paramatma is not allowing Yudhishthir to get convinced. Why? Because Krishna wants Yudhishthir to go and get the lessons of leadership from Bhishma Dev on the bed of arrows. So then Prabhupada writes elaborate purports in that section, where as the sages, along with various demigods, along with Krishna and the Pandavas, enter into the arena of the battlefield where Bhishma Dev is lying on the bed of arrows, Tan Sametan Mahabhaga Uplabhya Vasuttama, Pujayan As Dharmabhyo Desha Kala Vibhagavit. As per time, place, and circumstance, Bhishma Dev knew how to adjust the principles of dharma. So Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport on Desha Kala Vibhagavit, that one who is dharmagya, one who is a great, competent spiritual leader, knows how to adjust the principles of dharma as per time, place, and circumstance. So Bhishma Dev could not obviously get up and offer the standard protocols of respect which he would have in normal circumstances. But because he was in the bed of arrows, not even a limb could move. But he realized that there is only one limb of mine which can move, which is my tongue. And therefore, Bhishma Dev offered prayers of respect. And therefore, he considered that, yes, the principles of dharma should never be deviated from. Whatever limitations we may have, but as per time, place, circumstance, we can adjust those. So therefore, when Bhishma Dev looks at Krishna and the Pandavas and Yudhishthir Maharaj sitting right next to him, his eyes is filled with tears when he sees the opulence which the Pandavas are now experiencing and how the Pandavas have regained their rightful kingdom. And so he says, Aho kashtam, aho anyayam yad yuyam dharmanandanaha, jivitum narhada klishtam vipradharma achyudashrayaha. That, oh my dear Pandavas, you went through what kind of difficulty and distress, aho kashtam, aho anyayam, what kind of injustice, yad yuyam dharmanandanaha, although you were the sons of dharma, jivitum narhata klishtam. But actually, when any ordinary person would have experienced this kind of klesha or difficulty in their lives or adversity in their lives, they would not have survived. They would have departed. They would have given up their lives. Vipradharma achyutashrayaha. But you were only protected because you took shelter of three principles, of the Vaishnavas, of Dharma, and of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, achyutashrayaha. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes in the commentaries of this, that normally when you perform some piety, you will expect positive reciprocation and prosperity. But sometimes, even after being very pious, when one goes through adversity, one becomes bewildered and one starts thinking, what is it that has happened? Why I am going through this? Because I have heard that if I do piety, I will get good. If I do sin, I will get bad. But even in spite of doing piety, why I'm going through this negative situation? So Prabhupada writes that even after having performed the most pious activities, one may experience adversities, and therefore one should not be bewildered by the tricks of time. Even the best good soul may experience these kind of adversities and difficulties. And so therefore one can never understand Krishna's will, and one needs to only submit and surrender to Krishna's will. So repeatedly the Bhagavatam is revealing through the verses and through Prabhupada's enlightened commentaries in the Bhaktivedanta purports the beautiful character of the Vaishnava leaders, And the common thread amongst all of these characters is in the midst of adversity, in the midst of prosperity, they're only concerned with one thing: how to surrender and serve the will of Krishna and please him. So that's the essence of spiritual leadership in terms of the first quality of character, which I have, come across in Prabhupada's purports.
So that kind of purity of purpose, the real desire to serve the Lord and having no personal ambition, really want to being a servant, and then in midst of difficulties, just remaining determined to fulfill that purpose. Yeah, that's a beautiful quality. Not so easy to develop, but I guess to aspire for, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's one of the characteristics that you kind of felt inspired by reading Prabhupada's books, going through.
Yeah, because, if you see Prabhupada's purports, it's very clear that spiritual leadership is not about just some skills, but the foundation of spiritual leadership is about the character. And that character is about integrity. It is about truthfulness, keeping your promises or treating others fairly. Character is about, being authentic in our day-to-day leadership, and especially about avoiding deceit and duplicity. And if you see Prabhupada's purports in the Chota Haridas section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada drives home this point again and again, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Patita Pavan, but Prabhupada mentions he is not Kapata Pavan, that he will not deliver or he will not excuse someone who resorts to duplicity or deceit. And therefore, like if you see in the Hiranyakashipu section in the 7th canto, where he's consoling his family members, especially the wife of Hiranyaksha after Hiranyaksha's death, Bhutanam iva sammasa prapayam iva subrate, Daiven ekkatranitanam umnitanam swakarmabhi, where Hiranyakashipu is mentioning that please do not lament about the disappearance or death of Hiranyaksha, because different souls come together, being impelled and pulled by the time factor, by the will of the Lord, and in due course of time they depart. So therefore, just like in a hotel, people come together, stay for some time and go, like that souls come and go, and therefore you should not get bewildered by this. So appears like a philosophy which is spoken by someone very exalted and elevated. So definitely Hiranyakashipu had the intelligence, he had the skills, he had the resilience to rule and control and overpower others. But he definitely did not have the character to support that. And therefore, although he's speaking these words and stand alone, if you cut paste these shloka sections and read it or narrate it without telling the context of who's speaking it, it may appear as some very exalted philosophy. But then when you go back and actually see who is it who has spoken this, and you say, oh, it's Hiranyakashipu, then you realize that, oh, just a few words of philosophy by itself has no meaning, and they are empty bullets unless they are supported by a solid character, where in the Chanakya Pandit says, Manassekam vachassekam karmassekam mahatmana. Manasyanya vachasanya karmasanya duratmana. That when mind, words, and actions are in synergy, it's Mahatma, and when they are different, it's Duratma. So therefore, it's all about how we can bring alignment between our words, our thoughts, and our deeds.
That reminds me of Sanatana Goswami glorifying Haridas Thakur, where he says that because your achar and your prachar is both, some people preach, but they may not behave properly. Others behave properly, but they don't preach. But you are fulfilling both duties to the holy name. You're preaching and you're acting properly. So I think that's a nice example of, it's the philosophy that we have in understanding, but then also our way we actually live our lives, which is very important. Yeah. Okay, so that's character, which is an important aspect of a leader. You did mention also about courage and commitment as other kind of key qualities that you found inspiration from Srila Prabhupada's books.
Yeah.
talk about courage, like the importance of courage as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, itself is a great example of courage, because he went through adversities of seeing a business collapse, various kinds of issues which manifested in the Gaudiya Mutt in the late 1930s and early 1940s, and various god brothers of Srila Prabhupada who had spent quality time with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and things were not going well there. So normally a person would start thinking, well, senior people are kind of not cooperating and having differences. So is there any point in me being so committed? So many people may take kind of that route that, I don't even know whether this process works, because if it would have worked, then why would such senior people behave like this? So then normally a person would many times feel like giving up. So Srila Prabhupada had the courage to continue, even though he was seeing around him a lot of chaos happening. And then on a personal front, his business was collapsing. And the family front, the family was not very much receptive or supportive. They were kind of aloof. In that scenario, Prabhupada had the courage, because this courage is essential to whatever the leaders may do. Because if a leader does not have courage, then fear and doubt will take over. Like Prabhupada was sitting on top of, in the Gaudiya Mutt. This was in Mathura, Keshavji Gaudiya Mutt, and he was sitting on the first floor and honoring prasad with one of his sannyasi god brothers. And a guest walks in and they look at Prabhupada along with his another god brother, both sitting and eating prasad, honoring prasad. And then they go, and Prabhupada turns to his elder god brother and says that, these guests, all they saw is two old people sitting and honoring prasad. But what they did not see is the future of Lord Chaitanya's movement is in the hands of one of these men. So Srila Prabhupada had that kind of confidence and courage, and he would not allow any kind of fear or doubt to take over. And without courage, one will not be able to sustain one's character, and one will not be able to consistently engage one's challenges. So therefore, it's very important for us to remember that courage is a very, very important element. And here is Maharaj Parikshit, who's cursed to die. And the curse is pronounced by a Brahmana boy called Shringi. But Maharaj Parikshit is having the courage to sit and be surrounded by various saints and sages and hear Harikatha. And he's telling all of them that I actually want to hear from you, all of you. Tammo payantam pratyantu ipra Gangach Devi Dharajitamishe. That even Ganga Devi is a witness of my statement. Dvijopasrishta. Kuhakas takshakova. May that takshak sent by that son of a Brahmana, Shatvalam, bite me. Gayata Vishnu Gatha. But you continue speaking Harikatha, because I want to hear that Harikatha. Dashatvalam Gayata Vishnu Gatha. I want to continuously hear about the glories of Lord Vishnu, even at that last moment of fierce death. So he had that courage to face that death, because he was not afraid of the destruction of his body. Maharaj Parikshit was more worried about the distraction of his mind. And therefore, he mentions here that Dvijopasrishta Kuhakas Takshakova Dashatvalam Gayata Vishnu Gatha. You continue. And then he says, Punascha Bhoyat Bhagavati Ananta Rati Prasangaschatashreshu Mahatsuyamyam Upyami Srishtim Maitrastu Sarvatra Namodvijebhyo. That in case I am not able to remember Krishna at the moment of death, when my mind gets distracted and I have to take birth again in this world, then I have these three requests from you, my dear Lord. Punascha Bhuyat Bhagavati Anantarati. First, let me develop unlimited attraction towards Krishna. Second, let me take shelter and association of devotees. Third, Maitristu Sarvatra Namod Bijepya. Let me develop compassion towards all the souls and share this message with everybody. So here is Parikshit, who's on the verge of death, and he's telling Shukadeva Goswami, in the 10th canto, Vayam Dhanyatama Loke, Guropi Kshatrabandhava, Vayam Pubamo Muhustatta Punyam Krishna Kathamrta. 3.5 days are over. First 9 cantos are over. Bhagavatam consists of 18,000 verses. When 9,000 verses are complete, 9th canto gets completed, then 10th canto begins. So if Maharaj Parikshit had 7 days, so at the end of 3.5 days, the 10th canto begins. And after 3.5 days of no eating, no sleeping and all, a person will be tired. And his mind may become delirious. But Parikshit Maharaj is crystal clear in his thinking. And he's saying, Vayam Dhanyatama. We are the most fortunate. So who's most fortunate then? So fortunate, more fortunate, most fortunate. One who gets satsanga of the Vaishnavas is fortunate. One who gets to hear in the satsanga of the Vaishnavas is more fortunate. And one who gets to hear repeatedly in that association of satsanga of Vaishnavas, that is most fortunate. So Parikshit Maharaj is not feeling afraid of his impending death, whereas he is full of courage and hope because he realizes that the most fortunate is one who gets to hear Harikatha repeatedly, which means he gets opportunities to hear the diverse ways in which great souls have served Krishna in the midst of prosperity and adversity. And that is the kind of courage which a Vaishnava leader is supposed to possess.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful example, Parikshit. Facing death, knowing that death is the most scary thing, usually. When I hear of courage, of course, I also think of, Kshatriya, strong leader who is, courageous. But then also we understand that Prabhupada often used the example of a leader is like strong as a thunderbolt, but soft as a rose. Or how it was like in English, a military general and like a Bengali mother. I think a soft heart, but at the same time also strong. And it seems that a leader should have both, like to be courageous, to be strong, at the same time also compassionate. And would you like to explain on that? How is a person be able to imbibe both of these qualities?
Yeah. When someone has character and one has courage, he's able to translate that into action with commitment. So, as they say, if you do not commit to something, you will be distracted by everything.
Okay.
So therefore, if in the conversation between Haridas Thakur and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya is in a state of great worry. He is the one who has brought Harinam Sankirtan to this world, and he's kind of, in his Leela, under the influence of Yoga Maya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sitting with Thakur Haridas in Siddha Bakul in Jagannath Puri and telling him his deepest concern. Haridas koli kale yavana apar go brahmana himsa kore mahadurachar. That, oh Haridas, I see that in this age of Kali, people are not going to be following the Vaishnava principles, dharmic principles. Yavana apar. Too many Yavans are there, and they are going to be inclined to be killing Go and Brahmana. And therefore, I am wondering, Iha sabara kona marte hoi be nistar, taha hetu na dekhiye e dukha apar. I do not see any means of deliverance for all of them. How will all of these souls in Kali Yuga get delivered? So it's a very ironical, statement, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to deliver the souls in Kali Yuga, and he has brought the main remedy, the means, which is the Mahamantra. So here is the person who has brought the medicine, Enechi Aushadhi Maya Nasibaro Lagi, Harinam Mahamantra Lautumi Magi. But as part of his Leela Shakti, he's expressing to Thakur Haridas, I don't know how will the souls in this age be delivered. Haridas kahe Prabhu chinta na koriha, jabaner sansar dekhi dukha na bhaviha. Haridas Thakur says, my dear Lord, why are you in anxiety? Chinta na kariha. You don't worry. Haridas Thakur is telling Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you don't worry, you relax, be cool. Arey, how I'll be cool? How the souls will be delivered? They're all engaged in sinful activity. Yavanera sansar dekhi dukkha na bhaviha, my dear Lord. There is a means by which the souls in this age will be delivered. What is that? Then he says, the holy names. And the holy names has been brought by Lord Chaitanya only. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is performing this pastime to show that when we are beset with devotional anxiety, the only way we can be relieved is when we are committed in our relationship with the Vaishnava and we reveal our heart in confidence to the Vaishnava. And the Vaishnava then shares their realization in their heart. And then, by hearing that, we will experience the solace. So Prabhupada, writes very beautiful purports that Thakur Haridas's response to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very much befitting a devotee. And Prabhupada says, this should be the response of someone who is dedicating his life and soul to the service of Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is unhappy by seeing the conditions of the fallen souls, and Thakur Haridas, playing the role of a devotee, is consoling him, saying, my dear Lord, do not be in anxiety. So Prabhupada says, this is service. What is that? When a servant adopts the cause of the master to try to relieve the master from the anxiety which he feels, that is actually service. So therefore, Thakur Haridas is accepting the cause of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and is relieving the anxiety of Lord Chaitanya, and therefore is providing service to the Lord. So then Prabhupada says, if one tries to relieve Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's anxiety for the fallen souls, so Lord Chaitanya is in anxiety, how will fallen souls be delivered? So whoever takes on that anxiety on behalf of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and tries to relieve Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of that anxiety, that devotee becomes a dear and confidential servant of the Lord. Like that. So therefore, one needs a fair degree of commitment to do that. Srila Prabhupada again heard from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in 1922 at 1 Ulta Danga Junction Lane. If you get, you are an intelligent young man, preach in the English language in the Western countries, all over the world. So Srila Prabhupada took that, one desire of Saraswati Thakur. It was a seed, and Prabhupada carefully preserved that seed, then nourished that seed, and then ultimately he was committed to fulfilling the instruction of Srila Saraswati Thakur and relieving the anxiety of Srila Saraswati Thakur. So I think these are some of the points which, we should try to follow. And I really feel inspired by reading some of these purports. So basically my main kind of sharing of personal experience with the devotees who are watching this is that all of us will go through challenging situations in leadership. And therefore, we could either respond politically, we could respond emotionally, but Srila Prabhupada's books and the Bhagavatam and the purports given by Srila Prabhupada help us process similar situations which other souls have gone through in the annals of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And by reading that, we get inspired to respond not politically, not emotionally, but we are able to respond devotionally. So I think, exposure to Srila Prabhupada's purports, the Bhaktivedanta purports, has played a very, very major, crucial role in my own personal devotional life, because we may have our own independent idea of how to react and respond in different situations. But Srila Prabhupada's purports, at the right moment when we are able to access them, they really give us the true north with respect to how we should be responding in such situations of turmoil and difficulty.
Thank you so much for sharing. So you shared the character, courage, and commitment. These are very essential qualities as a leaders. And you also shared how and we could see, you quoted from Shastra, you remembered passages from Prabhupada's purports. So that shows that if devotees actually are absorbed deeply in studying Srila Prabhupada's books, and Prabhupada's wisdom becomes like accessible to them, then they will be able to apply it in their lives. And so we first have to hear about these things, we have to study and read so that we can apply it also. So it shows the importance of studying Prabhupada's books. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, beautifully described. Thank you so much, Gauranga Prabhu, for sharing your realization on this topic. And looking forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Krishna Prema Rupa Prabhu. Thanks to you, Tapan Mishra Prabhu, and the whole team of Education Ministry of ISKCON GBC, which is doing an excellent service of promoting the importance of studying Srila Prabhupada's books. As during Prabhupada's time, there were almost 5,500 devotees in ISKCON in 1977. Now the numbers have grown more than 250,000 serious, committed, maybe initiated devotees. So, and plus ISKCON has distributed almost 500 million pieces of literatures and books, but we hardly have like a few thousand, 10, 12, 15,000 Bhakti Shastris and a few hundreds of Bhakti Vaibhavs. So it's very important time that we start boiling the milk. And I think your efforts to promote this and create awareness amongst devotees and provide a support and inspiration to devotees for studying these literatures is very important. So at Govardhan Eco Village, we are operating for the last 10 years, the Bhaktivedanta Vidyapit Research Center, led by Gauranga Darshan Prabhu and others. And it has acted also as a major boost to provide various literatures and handbooks to help devotees study better. But really, it's not lack of time which devotees have, it's the lack of taste. And the lack of taste is many times due to, improperly practiced bhakti, or due to distractions which may come in the course of one's, performance of devotional service. Vishaya Vishama Visha Satata Khainu Gaur Kirtan Rase Magana no hoinu. So Narottam Das Thakur says Gaur Kirtan Ras, in Gaur Kirtan Ras, the mind does not become magan or absorbed because Vishaya, the sense objects Vishama, are deadly. Vishaya, like Vishaya Vishama Visha, like poison. Satata Khainu. So especially with the smartphones and the online chatter constantly following us through social media, it has had a major impact on the net absorption levels of devotees in our movement. So the practicing devotee is facing an onslaught on his faith like never before. And therefore it's an emergency time. And I think the Ministry of Education is, doing excellent service by providing the kind of courage and the support which devotees need to keep studying these books and take shelter of these books and purports of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the encouragement. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.